Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously stealthy, microscopic invader to understand exactly how it operates, and more importantly, how you can defend your home against it. If you've ever cleaned out a dusty old shed, a garage, or a rural cabin, you are absolutely going to want to pay very close attention to what we've got lined up for you today. We're looking at Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. It's a severe, acute zoonotic disease that can literally turn your everyday environments into hazard zones without you even realizing it. Let's start with a number that instantly puts the massive stakes into perspective: 35 to 50%. That is the mortality rate we're dealing with here. When we talk about viral infections, a mortality rate in this range is, well, it's absolutely devastating. It means that up to half of the people who contract this illness won't survive it. So right off the bat, we know this isn't your standard seasonal bug. This is a highly lethal pathogen, and understanding how it works is your absolute best defense. Let's dive right into Section 1. The hidden 50% threat, unmasking the Bunyaviride virus. So, Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, is caused by viruses in the Bunyaviride family. The main reservoirs, the carriers, are rodents. But it's not just any rodent. The specific type of virus depends heavily on the species. For instance, the deer mouse is the famous host for the Sinombre strain, while the cotton rat carries a totally different strain. It's kind of like these seemingly harmless rodents act as primary biological vaults for this hidden threat. They go about their lives completely unaffected, all while carrying a virus that is incredibly deadly to humans.
Moving to Section 2, how the virus spreads, breaching human defenses.
Here's the really wild part. The primary way people get sick is entirely invisible. We're talking about aerosols. You don't even have to touch a rodent to get hantavirus. You simply breathe in aerosolized particles from their urine or droppings while, say, sweeping out a shed or disturbing old nesting materials. Beyond the air, direct contact is also a huge risk. If you touch infected saliva, droppings, or nests, and then rub your eyes, nose, or mouth, well, that's all it takes. And sure, while it's less common, a direct bite from an infected rodent can transmit the virus straight into your bloodstream. Now, normally, hantavirus is what we call an epidemiological dead end in humans. In North America, it strictly moves from rodent to human. You cannot catch it from another person. But, and this is a massive exception, the Andes virus down in South America totally breaks this rule. It can actually spread from person to person, usually within close family groups or through direct, intimate contact with an infected patient. It's a critical distinction, right? Because it completely changes how healthcare workers have to respond to an outbreak depending on where they are in the world.
All right, Section 3, a rapid symptom escalation, the ticking clock.
Talk about the calm before the storm. Following exposure at day 0, there is this remarkably long, silent incubation period. We're talking anywhere from 7 to 42 days. You might completely forget you even cleaned that dusty shed a month ago. Then, the early symptoms hit, and they're frustratingly generic. Fatigue, fever, chills, headaches, maybe some gastrointestinal issues, and notably, intense muscle aches, especially in the thighs and back. But here is the terrifying turn. Just 4 to 10 days later, the disease suddenly plummets. The lungs literally fill up with fluid, a condition called pulmonary edema. This causes severe coughing and extreme shortness of breath, meaning you need emergency medical attention right then and there. So what actually happens when you reach the hospital? Well, diagnosis relies on positive serology tests, catching viral antigens and tissues, or RNA sequencing in the blood. But here is the hard truth of the matter. There is no vaccine, and there's absolutely no specific cure for HPS. Because of that, early detection and intensive care are your only lifelines. The goal is getting the patient into the ICU fast for intubation and oxygen therapy, just to support them while their own body fights off the virus. There is one piece of good news, though. If a patient survives, the immune response they generate to hantaviruses is considered long-lasting. Let's look at Section 4, the most vulnerable groups, mapping the risk. So, who is actually most likely to encounter this invisible enemy? The risk definitely isn't distributed equally. On a health level, those with weakened immune systems like cancer patients or those with HIV, as well as people with chronic diseases like diabetes, are highly vulnerable to severe outcomes. Geographically, rural areas are the hotspots simply because that's where the rodent habitats are. And when you look at the gender and occupation breakdown, men face an elevated risk due to occupational exposure in fields like agriculture and construction. Women, on the other hand, often face exposure during domestic tasks, cleaning, or caring for sick family members. The whole risk profile is built entirely around who is exposed to these rodent environments.
Time to pivot to some highly actionable prevention in Section 5, your defense strategy, building an impenetrable fortress.
Since we don't have a medical cure, prevention is literally everything. Think about your own spaces and follow these 3 straightforward steps. First, cut off their food supply. Keep your food stored in thick, rodent-proof containers. Second, block their entry. You've got to diligently seal all holes, cracks, and entry points into your home. And third, actually this might be the most important one for direct prevention, never, ever sweep a dusty, potentially infested area without proper personal protective equipment. Throw on a mask, wear some gloves. Do not give the virus the chance to become aerosolized and enter your lungs. Extending beyond your own 4 walls, we've also got to manage the broader environment. This means moving garbage far away from your living spaces so you aren't laying out a welcome mat for rodents. It means community-wide environmental management to actively reduce habitats in residential areas. And critically, from a healthcare control perspective, it means strictly isolating any confirmed patients if that human transmissible Andes virus is detected, just to stop a localized outbreak in its tracks. Finally, let's zoom out a bit for Section 6, beyond the health crisis, the societal ripple effect. This goes so far beyond just the immediate health crisis. The ripple effects are huge. It disrupts food security as protecting crops and storage facilities from rodents becomes a literal life-or-death necessity. It halts education, causing massive school absences and disruptions when isolation measures kick in. It drains financial resources, hitting livelihoods hard through lost productivity, missing income, and the crushing weight of intensive medical costs. And, we absolutely cannot ignore the psychological impact here. Outbreaks cause intense anxiety and social withdrawal within the affected communities. This quote really hits the nail on the head regarding the economic reality. A disease like this leads to decreased productivity and severe income loss due to the inability to work or having to divert all your resources just to pay for medical treatment. It's not just the terrifying physical toll of your lungs filling with fluid, it's the financial ruin for families dealing with a sudden HPS infection. Think about it. A breadwinner incapacitated in the ICU for weeks means the income stops completely, right as medical bills are skyrocketing. It's a dual tragedy of health and economics.
So I want to leave you with this thought today. Is your home truly sealed against the invisible threat? Take a walk around your property this afternoon. Look at the shed, check the garage, inspect the pantry. Ask yourself if you are truly protected. Because when it comes to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, awareness and prevention are absolutely your best and really your only defenses. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, stay safe out there.